Federal authorities, meanwhile, raiding two locations earlier today. One of those locations, this house here in Plano. The other is a business right off of Harry Hines Boulevard in Dallas.
Thanks for joining us at noon. I'm Sam Shocker. Today, DEA Rocky Mountain talked about yet another large drug bust, this time involving hundreds of pounds of meth.
Now, we've learned that both the business and the home in Plano are connected via tax records.
What if I told you the biggest drug pipeline in American history wasn't run by a cartel kingpin hiding in a jungle, but by a high-ranking US general with top-secret clearance? They called it the Iron Corridor, a ghost pipeline so sophisticated it didn't just bypass the system, it was the system. At 3:14 a.m., Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport looks like a marvel of modern logistics. We're talking about one of the busiest cargo hubs on the planet. 2.1 million tons of freight moving annually, 200 international carriers, and billions of dollars in legitimate commerce flowing through those terminals every single week. It's the heartbeat of American trade. But beneath that polished surface of spreadsheets and shipping manifests, something else was moving, something dark. For 14 months, the DEA's Southwest Intelligence Division had been chasing a ghost. They knew a narcotics pipeline existed, but it was so clean, so well protected, that it barely left a trace. 11 months of seized burner phones, burned couriers who knew nothing, and dead-end leads had finally collapsed into one single name. One man, one badge. And what investigators were about to find inside that airport would shake federal law enforcement to its absolute core. We're talking $189 million in narcotics, 57 initial arrests, and a network so deeply embedded in American infrastructure that senior DEA commanders would later describe it as the most operationally sophisticated domestic infiltration ever documented. Before we dive into the terrifying blueprint they uncovered, do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. We cover the stories the mainstream media often skims over, and you won't want to miss our deep dive into Phase 2 later this week.
The people responsible, including a kingpin in Mexico, now face a 15-defendant federal indictment. Wiretaps, undercover operations, extensive surveillance, and swift enforcement action led to enormous seizures in this case.
Okay, back to Terminal 7. The cargo manifest said it was medical equipment. 12 pallets, pre-cleared for priority release. Every single one was signed by a man named Daniel Mercer. But when DEA forensic teams cracked open the crates under the cold fluorescent lights of the terminal, they didn't find surgical tools or heart monitors. They found 340 kilograms of pure cocaine, vacuum-sealed inside surgical supply packaging. It was so convincing that even high-tech custom scanners had passed it as clean. Sitting on a table right next to the crate was Mercer's personal authorization stamp. He'd used it 94 times in the last 11 months. Now, you might be wondering, how did Mercer get away with this? Who gave him the clearance codes? Why had 6 federal inspections in the past year been quietly redirected away from Terminal 7? And why, when agents pulled satellite phone records, did one number trace back to a retired military attaché with active federal clearance? The answer came at 4:02 a.m. FBI breach teams hit 6 locations simultaneously. This wasn't just a raid, it was a synchronized strike within a 90-second window. They hit Terminal 7, a private aviation hangar, a warehouse in Grand Prairie, a cold storage facility in Fort Worth, a stash house in Irving, and a freight consulting firm in downtown Dallas. At Terminal 7, the team moved in total silence. No flashbangs, no shouting. They needed the servers intact. When they cleared the secondary door, they found 3 men mid-shred. Documents were being fed into industrial destroyers. Laptops were being wiped. One man actually swallowed his phone rather than let the feds have it. They were too late for the shredder, but they weren't too late for the trucks. At the Grand Prairie warehouse, SWAT intercepted a convoy of refrigerated trucks. One tried to run, but the DEA caught them 11 blocks away. Inside, 1.4 tons of meth packed in frozen fish crates, and 680,000 fentanyl pills pressed to look like prescription oxycodone. By the end of the first 40 minutes, the tally was staggering. 2.8 tons of cocaine, 1.4 million fentanyl pills, $12 million in cash, and 47 military-grade rifles. They even found body armor with authentic Texas Department of Public Safety markings. But the real Holy Grail was found in that Dallas consulting office, a server rack still humming military-grade encryption. On the primary terminal sat a single folder labeled Blueprint. If you're finding this breakdown eye-opening, go ahead and hit that like button. It really helps the algorithm show this to people who need to know how these systems actually work. That Blueprint file was 6.4 gigabytes of pure dynamite. It was sent straight to Quantico. When FBI Cyber Command cracked the first layer, they didn't find a cartel ledger. They found an architecture. 31 shell companies nested inside agricultural firms and charities. Money routing through Belize, then Cyprus, then back to Texas construction contractors. They called it Operation Iron Corridor. The Sinaloa cartel moved the product. The product entered DFW under pre-authorized codes that only a federal aviation security director could generate. The money was laundered as contractor payments, and a small, consistent portion landed in a private account for a Delaware LLC. One analyst, a 12-year veteran named Maria Torres, had to walk away from her desk. She said, "I've seen dirty money, I've never seen dirty architecture." Then they found the payments ledger. No names, just badge numbers. 14 airport staff members were on the take. And right there was Daniel Mercer's badge number, $24,000 a month. But Mercer wasn't the boss. The file referenced a secondary authorization chain, someone with clearance above airport level, a man codenamed Cardinal. So, who was Cardinal? As 1,200 federal agents mobilized across Texas, hitting superlabs in Odessa and tunnels in Laredo, the truth finally came out. Cardinal wasn't some cartel thug. Cardinal was retired Brigadier General Howard Voss. Voss was a former federal border security liaison. He held active top-secret clearance. He was the man who had personally lobbied for Terminal 7's expanded pre-clearance authority 3 years prior. He didn't just exploit the protocols, he designed them. He wasn't Mercer's handler, he was Mercer's creator. And here is the most terrifying part. The Blueprint file wasn't just a record of the past, it was a dead man's switch. Voss had documented every bribe, every recorded call, and every compromised official as insurance. We're talking 23 police officers, 7 border patrol agents, 4 sitting judges, and 11 state legislators. All of them in the pocket of the Iron Corridor. Falsified patrol logs, evidence that walked out of lockers, and a Laredo judge who dismissed 9 major narcotics cases in 18 months. The lead FBI commander said it best. This wasn't a few bad apples, this was a parallel system, one that answered to the cartel, not the Constitution. General Voss was arrested at his home in San Antonio at 6:44 a.m. He didn't say a word, he didn't have to. The file spoke for him. The network was massive. It moved 4.2 tons of narcotics per week across 11 states, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, without triggering a single federal alert. You'd think the story ends there. Tunnels sealed, 340 arrests made, Voss and Mercer in handcuffs. Justice served, right? Wrong. Buried in a final partition of that server was a folder dated just 3 weeks before the raid. It was titled Phase 2. Inside were 3 new cities, 3 new airport corridors, and 3 sets of pre-authorized codes. The Iron Corridor hadn't been stopped, it had been franchised, and the next generation was already operational. In Texas alone, 2,400 people died of overdoses last year. 61% involved fentanyl from networks just like this. This isn't just a crime story. It's a blueprint of how power, when pointed in the wrong direction, and hollow out entire neighborhoods for the sake of a shipping invoice. The Phase 2 cities, Houston, Miami, and a major Pacific Northwest port hub. We're dropping the full investigation into those locations and the names involved this coming Friday. If you made it this far, you're seeing what most people just scroll past. Comment the word expose below if you want these investigations brought into the light. Share this with someone who thinks corruption only happens somewhere else. The evidence says otherwise. The Iron Corridor didn't die with General Voss, it just moved. We've identified the next 3 cities on the list, and the names will shock you. Subscribe and stay tuned.